Hi friends, it is Megan. Welcome back to my channel, and today I will be doing my April wrap-up. So the first book I read in April was The House of the Scorpion by Nancy Farmer. This tells the story of a boy who was born to be a clone for the lord of this country called Opium, and it's about his journey in discovering what being a clone is, and it's not necessarily a very good thing in Opium, and it tells about him discovering what he is and deciding what to do about it. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I didn't love it, but it was very enjoyable. It was better than I was expecting it to be, and I do think I'll be picking up the sequel, but it's not something I'm like craving or have to have on my bookshelf, but I am interested in seeing where it goes from here. The next book I read was The Lightning Thief by Riordan. This is the first book in the Camp Half-Blood series. It tells the story of Percy Jackson, who is the son of one of the gods, and about his experience meeting the rest of the other sons and daughters of the gods and goddesses of Olympus. And I love the concept of this, like the sons and daughters of Olympus, and I loved the execution. It wasn't one of my like I love this to death 5-star books, but it was definitely up there, so I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read, or I guess you could say listened to, was the audiobook for Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I gave this 5 stars because Harry Potter, and clearly it deserves 5 stars. I'm interested to see how I would feel about Harry Potter if it wasn't such a nostalgic thing, like how I would feel about it now. But I really love this. Yeah. The narrator did a spot-on impersonation of Gilderoy Lockhart, and I just really loved this. Ginny is introduced. She's one of my favorite characters, and yes. Next book I read is The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. This was definitely not one of my favorite books. It tells the story of a man who has the ability, well, has the curse of traveling through time. He doesn't have any control over it, and he can't take anything that's not part of his body, so he always ends up naked wherever he goes. And at one point he ends up with his future wife, but as her past self, so he's like 40 and she's like 6, and he just shows up as a naked man. I love the concept of time travel, but the execution in this book just was not good to me. There was just a lot of problems, and when you bring up time travel, the whole naked concept is not my cup of tea. And then I watched the movie trying to hope, because I heard it was better, and honestly the movie was worse. I am going to be doing a book to movie review on this book, but definitely not my favorite, so I gave it 2.5 stars, although it might be 2 stars the more I think about it. The next book I read is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. This tells the story of 2 kids who are growing into young adults and their journey through different perspectives of the war. I really love this idea. The girl is blind, and after reading this, all I could think about was like putting like the characteristic of being blind on all the other characters I was reading. So like I was reading Throne of Glass at the same time, and I was imagining Selena blind, and it was just crazy. But I did give this 3 stars. I did enjoy it a lot. I wasn't too satisfied in the ending, but I did enjoy it. It's not like my favorite or something I love, but it wasn't horrible to read. I then read The Carrie Diaries by Candace Bushnell. This is the prequel to Sex and the City. I enjoyed it, but I'm gonna give it 2 stars just because there was a few actually toxic relationships in this book, and they were never really addressed or challenged or said that they were wrong. And it didn't really make me want to watch Sex and the City, and when I read something that's a prequel, I want it to make me want to further read or watch or engross in the story. So I am gonna give it 2 stars. Then I read Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer. This tells the story of the 1996 Mount Everest disaster, and I love like reading true adventure stories or true stories about disasters and stuff like that. They are enjoyable to me. They're just not something that I love or want to keep collecting, but I do really enjoy reading them. So they won't be staying on my bookshelf, but it was a great read. Then I read Ready or Not by Meg Cabot, and I really can't find any good things to say about this. I guess there was one scene that made me laugh. It was in the cafeteria at the end. But this tells the story of the girl who is dating the president's son, and they're trying to discover and journey through the concept of whether they're ready or not for the next step in their relationship. And I just did not like the plot. I did not like the main character. I was really not a fan of the writing style, so I give this 1 star. Then I read Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and I loved this book. It was a much needed 5-star after all those like okay-ish books. So this tells the story of Selena, who is an assassin, and she is sent, well, I guess nominated by the prince to be in the assassin games, if you will, but it's like a fight to the end, or a competition to the end, to see who will be the king's assassin. And I really love this. It felt like the teenage version of Nevernight, or the young adult version of Nevernight, and I really loved it, so 5 stars. And then speaking of Nevernight, I did finish Godsgrave, which is the sequel to Nevernight. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It took about 200 pages for me to get really into it, so that's the only reason it's not 5 stars. I really do enjoy the characters, I do enjoy the story, but taking 200 pages to get into it is kind of an issue for me, so that's gonna knock 1 star off. I then finished The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I almost said by Marilyn Monroe. I'm not really sure why, but I finished The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I enjoy the story. It's very well known. This is actually my second reread of this, so it didn't live up to what I remembered it being, because my first read of it was like back in high school, like sophomore year, I think, and now I'm out of college, so it just didn't live up to what I remembered after reading tons of new books now. And I really just enjoy some of his other work more. I've read Looking for Alaska, and I really want to read Paper Towns, but Looking for Alaska is such an awesome book from what I remember, but I don't know, maybe I'd feel the same about it if I reread it. But that is The Fault in Our Stars. I then read A Gathering of Shadows by VE Schwab. This is the sequel to A Darker Shade of Magic, which is one of my favorite books of all time. And this wasn't as good as A Darker Shade of Magic to me, but I really enjoyed it. It's still 5 stars, but A Darker Shade of Magic is a slightly higher 5 stars. There was elemental games in it, and there's a captain named Captain Alucard Emery in it, and I really enjoyed him, and I really enjoyed the relationships of a brotherhood and those kind of aspects of it. This was just such a good book. Then I read Vicious by VE Schwab. This tells the story of Victor and Eli, who were friends in college, and then their perspectives 10 years later, and along those 10 years they became enemies, and it tells their perspectives on how they became enemies, and it talks about good and evil and what means good and what means evil, and it just deals with those sorts of ideas. It has a lot more realism, but there is aspects of it that are like supernatural, which is cool. It doesn't sit on the same pedestal as A Darker Shade of Magic by VE Schwab for me, so it's sitting at a 4 star, but I still really loved the book. Then I finished the audiobook for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. 5 stars, clearly. It's gonna be the answer to all of the stars for Harry Potter series, and actually I think I like this one the best out of the 3 so far. It's hard to put anything above Sorcerer's Stone because it is the beginning of everything, but I really do love the scenes with Buckbeak and Hagrid teaching, and Hagrid is just such a sweet character. And I'm currently watching the movie for Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I've made it to the part where they're about to go watch Buckbeak's trial, and then they go to the Whomping Willow right after that. So that's where I'm at in the movie. It's really interesting to see the movie and book differences. Maybe one day in the future I'll do like book to movie differences of Harry Potter, the whole series, and I'll just watch or read the book and watch the movie and then do videos for each of those. That'd be fun. I just really love this book, and I think it's the most well written of the 3 so far. Then I read Before Marilyn, the Blue Book Modeling Years by Astrid France and Michelle Morgan. This tells the story of Marilyn Monroe when she was first starting out as a model. It focused heavily on the owner of the company, of like the modeling agency, so I wish there was a little bit more focus on Marilyn, but I was very interested in it. It gave details that I never knew, like Marilyn used to work in a parachute factory before everything, and she was married before the baseball player Joe DiMaggio, so that was interesting to learn about. These books just always tell about her career and everything, and I wish they'd touch more into her as a person, because there's so many stories I've read on like Tumblr or Pinterest about her as a person, but I just am interested in learning about her, and I just keep finding books about her career. So this is still 3 stars because I enjoyed it, but it just isn't what I'm looking for, but hopefully I find it one day. Then I read Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This was the Books with Friends book club book pick of the month, and it tells the story of Stevie, who goes to this boarding school because she wants to learn about the murder that happened way when the school was first founded, and she's determined to figure out and solve the crime. It ended kind of weird. I was not satisfied in the ending at all, so it's gonna sit at a 4 stars for me, and the characters weren't very fleshed out and explained and developed, except for Stevie, and then there was a romance in it that didn't make any sense to me, but it'll sit at a 4 stars. Then I finished Crown of Feathers by Nikki Palpuerto, and I can totally see why this was Alcrite's book pick of the month for February. I'm just now getting to it, but I loved this book so much. 5 stars. It tells the story of Veronica, who wants to be a Phoenix Writer more than anything, and she goes to this place that has Phoenix Writers, but the problem is they only take boys, so she decides to become a boy and try to get in the school, and it tells like her journey through that, and I just really loved it, and I love her, and I love everything. Yes. Ow. But anyways, that will be a 5-star read, and I cannot wait for the sequel. Then I read Mira Mir by Gregory Maguire, and this is a 1 star. It was super boring. It had really decorative text and like unnecessary text. It told things way more detailed than it needed to. Like, instead of saying he wiped his nose, it was like he took the shirt and dragged it across his face, wiping up the drizzling snot from his nostrils, and like, I don't even know. I wish I could find it for you, but it was just awful. Like, I did not like this book at all, and unhaul immediately. And then I read Cricket Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo, and this is a sequel to 6 of Crows, my favorite book, and this was just as good, if not better. I honestly can't decide which one's better because we get a lot more background information on almost all the characters, so whoever we didn't get in 6 of Crows, we got in Cricket Kingdom, and this was just such a good book, and I really hope there's a book 3. This is just amazing. 5 stars, and I'm excited to do my full-fledged review on it. And the last book I read in April was the volume 1 of the Dragon Ball manga series, and it's called The Monkey King. It was very interesting. I'm only reading it because Anthony is super into the whole Dragon Ball Z universe, and I wanted to be able to talk to him about it, and I figured reading the manga was going to be a lot faster than watching 600 episodes. So I'm reading it. It was definitely not what I expected. Yeah. But I really enjoy the manga style of reading, so I'm definitely going to be picking up more books like this. So that's what I read in April. That was 20 books total. It definitely wasn't what I originally had on my TBR, but I think I accomplished way more than I thought I would, actually. So I'm very proud of what I accomplished, but I'm definitely going to be toning it down for May because I just disappeared from Bookstagram and I was hardly posting to Booktube. I've got tons of ideas of stuff for May for Booktube, but yeah, I don't want to disappear again, and I am just wanting to spend more time not reading, but I still want to read, but like I also want to have a bit of a life, so definitely toning it down for next month. But that was April. I hope you enjoyed. I'd say my favorite book this month is tied between Crown of Feathers and Crooked Kingdom. Probably Crooked Kingdom, but this is a very close second. But yeah, that was April. Let me know what you thought of the books that I read this month and what books you read this month. Let me know what your favorite read was down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.